What's up, guys? My name is John Evans, and today I'm going to tell you about one of the most resilient, unexpected, and obsessed athletes I've ever coached, and that is Nate Kenny. For the last 10 years, I've been coaching some of the highest jumpers in the world like Donovan Hawkins, Isaiah Rivera, Tony Crosby, Dylan McCarthy, and the list goes on and on and on. These are all guys that have 50-inch vertical jumps. Here's the thing though, Nate is different. Nate is not one of these elite outliers. He didn't come to me as an incredibly talented athlete or someone that was wildly explosive. He was someone that I developed from the ground up all the way to where he is now. Looking back at his story, there's tons of pain points here where he could have quit, but he didn't. He stuck with it, and he's one of the most resilient athletes I've ever coached. This is the story of someone who started dunking on mini hoops when they were 3 years old and is now dunking on 10 feet, punching dunks, doing 360s, doing reverse pumps, and now has the potential to be one of the highest jumpers in the world. Growing up, Nate was a part of a very athletic family, and so he always had a ball in his hand. This is actually how he started dunking on mini hoops as early as 3 years old. Basketball was not just a hobby for Nate. He absolutely loved it. And like many of the other jumpers I've coached, he had a habit of jumping every single day. This is something that I see across all of the best jumpers that I've ever worked with, is that they are absolutely obsessed with it, and there's a period of time where they jump every single day at a very young age. I believe that this probably develops their technique really early on, develops their tendons so that they're stiffer and they get these positive adaptations, as well as building a good base of the fundamentals that you need to be a really high jumper one day. A big part of this is not doing it for validation. Nate didn't have followers, he didn't have people in the background clapping for him or cheering for him. He was doing this strictly out of a love for the game. He would imagine that he was in an NBA dunk contest and just try the craziest stuff that he could think of, and really wasn't limited by anything other than his imagination. So from 2017 to 2019, Nate was absolutely obsessed. Here's the thing though, Nate was not making crazy gains or improving a ton. He was a late bloomer. He wasn't someone that matured really early and had a crazy vertical out of the gate. So he was just doing it because he loved it, but still had the desire to dunk on 10 feet one day. So around 9 or 10, Nate created an Instagram page called Nate the Jumping Kid. And during this time, he got absolutely no traction, no views, no likes, was simply just posting his dunks and seeing what happened and tracking his progress. Isaiah actually did something very similar. Most kids probably would have quit here, but Nate didn't. He didn't get views, he didn't get attention, he didn't get momentum, but he just kept posting. And this is important because if you aren't obsessed with your craft, you're never going to be your absolute best. And Nate was absolutely obsessed. He just did it because he loved it. And again, not for views, not for attention, simply because he wanted to get better and he liked seeing himself dunk on low rims, watching his technique and studying to try to get better. By about 2019, Nate was dunking on around 7 feet. He also starts consuming jump-related content at the time and watching our podcast, so he started to entrench himself in some of the information that's out there about jumping higher. Unfortunately, there's a ton of bad information out there, and Nate was not immune to this. He started consuming content that wasn't necessarily going to help him jump higher, but was gimmicky or salesy, and he just started doing a bunch of different stuff, kind of hodgepodging pieces from different programs or things that he saw online. And unfortunately, as a result, he didn't really get better, but he was still doing the most important thing, which is jumping every single day and accumulating thousands and thousands of good jump reps. So in 2020, Nate has his very first setback. He ends up spraining his MCL. Because of this, Nate had to take an entire month off. And I think at this point, based on all the people that I've seen, a lot of kids just quit. They get that first injury, they don't know how to work through it, and they just end up stopping completely. To Nate's credit, he does not do this. He takes a month off, and after his brother strongly convinces him to start dunking again, he creates a new account called Hoopin' Nate, where he posts all of his low rim dunks, his mini hoop dunks, and he gets a ton of traction. This is the first key point in Nate's progression. So in 2021, he absolutely blows up. He's getting posted on ESPN, House of Highlights, SportsCenter, all over the internet, accumulating hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views, even millions of views on given videos. Unfortunately, during this time, Nate starts to develop knee pain. Now, this is super common as athletes get a little bit older. Around 13 or 14, males tend to develop tendinopathy if they are jumping a lot. Now, it's not the worst thing in the world because as a result of jumping a lot, they'll actually end up in a better position even with knee pain than had they not jumped a lot and then never had knee pain. And the reason why is because they're developing those motor pathways in their brain to jump really high someday. So as a result of his knee pain, he actually reaches out to Isaiah. In this message, he basically says, hey, I have knee pain, I really need help. Would you be able to help me work through this? And as a result, I actually DM'd him around early November. Specifically, he started the training on November 14th to get rid of his knee pain. At the time, Nate could dunk on about 7 foot to 7'6". He had about an 8'7" touch, and his vertical was 27 inches. Now, when Nate started, I wanted to slow cook the ever-living hell out of his progression. And the reason why is because I knew what his background was. I knew that he had taken thousands and thousands and thousands of reps. I knew that he hadn't matured fully, and that it would be to his benefit to work on a lot of the fundamental movement patterns that you need to be a really, really good athlete. So as a result, we put him on body weight training, and to his credit, he did most of these workouts outside of when he was in basketball season, but this ended up setting the foundation for him to be really, really successful someday. Occasionally, he would send me videos of him practicing with just a PVC pipe on squatting, cleaning, things like that, and I would give him feedback through my DMs. All right, so 2022. Nate finally starts lifting, and he really starts to take those foundational steps to being a better athlete. Within the first month or two, he starts consistently dunking on 8 foot and gets his first dunk on 8'6". In 2022, Nate also starts high school. Mind you, Nate is a really small kid for his age. He's about 5'4". He's not big, he's not heavy, and kids start to bully him a little bit. I mean, he has 200,000 followers on Instagram at the time. People are seeing his dunks on low rims, and they're essentially just trolling him because they have nothing better to do. They're high school kids, and that's what happens. This is super common. I think we live in a world now where if you share your progress or you're transparent with people and you're 14, 15 years old, it's really common for you to be an easy target for people to pick on, especially if you are a little bit smaller. So to Nate's credit, he doesn't quit. He maybe takes about a month or two off to kind of just reset, get his headspace right, and then goes right back to training. So in 2023, Nate starts to become legit. He gets cast for a Google commercial, which you guys may have seen, where he's dunking on a little mini hoop, and it was actually played during the NBA playoffs. It was pretty cool for me to see him on some of the biggest stage that any of my athletes have ever been on, which is cable television, and I was really proud of his progress at that point. At this point, he's about 5'3", touching the middle of the net, and gets invited to a Gatorade campaign. He's also improving on his squatting, his Olympic lifting, and starting to take the weight room more seriously after I told him that it was going to be key for him to do to improve later on in his development. During this time, Nate is still not very strong. He loved jumping every day, he loved dunking, but he really wasn't strong, and that was something that I knew he would have to develop if he wanted to be a great athlete one day. During this year, his technique starts to get cleaner. He starts to send me more videos of him lifting. I'm seeing him doing power cleans. I'm seeing him doing full back squats and front squats, doing some of the RDLs and movements that are absolutely integral if you want to be a better athlete. Mind you, Nate was not doing crazy weights. He was just simply doing the lifts that were listed, trusting the process, and slowly but surely getting better. He may not have realized it, but these years were absolutely integral in his progression and him getting to the level that he is today. So 2024 comes around, and this is the year where Nate really starts to get strong. He becomes absolutely obsessed with strength work, getting better in the weight room, and improving his technique of all of his lifts. To this day, he's one of the best athletes that showed up at the gym and lifted with us for the first time. This is also the year where I actually got to meet Nate for the first time. He goes to dunk camp and he tests a 35-inch vertical on the vert trainer. He ends up grabbing rim for the first time during this year and actually gets to the point where he's hanging on the rim. Now, this is a major milestone because it starts to become a realistic expectation for him to dunk on 10 feet one day. So some other big milestones that Nate hits this year. He gets his first dunk on 9'6" and 9'9". He ends up squatting 225 pounds deep, which was a huge milestone for him because, again, Nate was smaller, he wasn't super strong, he had been in the weight room, but he didn't really push himself the way that he needed to get better. He also gets his first power clean of 155 pounds, which was way above his body weight at the time, and he gets realistic dunk attempts on 10 feet. This is when I started to realize that Nate was going to be a problem someday. Now, the reason he saw so much progress during this period was because all of the work that he'd previously done was paying dividends. It was a long-term investment for him to know how to do all of those movements, to make sure he got all of those jump reps in, and it slowly but surely built on top of each other so that he was able to have a crazy amount of progress when he really started to mature. Out of all the years I've been coaching, I understand that it is incredibly important to have good movement qualities to build up a lot of jump volume and to also make sure that you're getting stronger. And Nate was doing all of these things for multiple years. And now we get to 2025, the year where Nate absolutely exploded. This is the year where Nate officially gets his first dunk on 10 feet. March 17th, 2025, a massive milestone. Now it's in his head that it's possible for him to be a great dunker one day. Nate had waited years for this moment, but unfortunately after that first dunk, he didn't get a second dunk until May 24th. Now this is super common. I actually had the same exact thing happen when I had my first dunk when I was a freshman in high school. I went up, punched it in layup lines, and then I could not dunk for multiple months. It's usually in a situation where you get your first dunk, where there's a lot of adrenaline, you're feeling super good on the day, and as a result, it's very hard to repeat that same environment over again. So you have to keep training, trust the process, and know that the next dunk will come, but it's gonna take time. However, as you can see, Nate is absolutely obsessed with the process. He doesn't quit, he keeps his head down, keeps working, and gets better. During this time, he grows to about 5'8", goes to dunk camp, and gets his first punch. I'm talking a real, legitimate, hard dunk on 10 feet. He also tests his vertical at 38 inches and barely misses 38.5. Now things were about to get interesting because during this time, Nate really starts to mature and all of the work that he's done starts to pay off in the weight room. His power clean jumps up like crazy. He goes from cleaning 155 to 185 to 205 to 210 and now 220 pounds. Hit it! Squat also goes from 225 to 275. And now he's hit 285 pounds in a deep back squat. He then officially tests a 40-inch vertical and then beats that with a 41-inch vertical jump. So we've seen this kid go from basically dunking on mini hoops when he's 3 to 5 years old to now a 41-inch vertical, 5'8", as a senior in high school. Not only that, but when he was here, he absolutely shocked us. He was punching one-handers, he was making two-handers, he did a 360 reverse pump. I mean, stuff that I never expected from him. And I think it probably started to shatter his own belief system and helped him understand, look, you actually can be a professional dunker someday if you want. And I genuinely believe that Nate has the potential to one day hit a 50-inch vertical. He's done everything that you possibly need to do to achieve that. He's got incredible technique. He's very, very strong, and he's only getting stronger, and he doesn't have any mobility restrictions. So he can continue to train immensely hard and continue to improve. So this is no longer Nate the mini hoop kid. This is a serious athlete, someone that's been training immensely hard and is now getting to the level where I would say he's on the verge of being a semi-professional dunker. The thing I love about Nate is nothing in his story was guaranteed. He wasn't tall early, he wasn't strong early, he wasn't bigger than other kids earlier on, he wasn't immensely popular. There were moments where he was scared, he got hurt, he plateaued for years and years and years, and there was no progress during that period, and he stuck with it. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it is that you have to stay consistent if you want to get better. You might not be the most talented kid in the world, but if you're willing to stay with it, stay consistent, put the time in, you can absolutely reach your genetic potential, and it is way, way better than you ever imagined. If you want to train like Nate did, or Isaiah, or Donovan, or Dylan McCarthy, or Tony Crosby, then go to THPStrength.com. There's really only one thing separating you from him, and that is the right plan and the ability to stick with that plan for a long time. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.